Wranglerstar Gauntlet Challenge Phase 1 complete. Stay with me, guys, and we'll talk about this legendary old blade. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the morning of August 2013, bringing to you the first phase of the Wranglerstar Gauntlet Challenge. As some of you know, he was to send me his Benchmade 940, his well-worn EDC blade for sharpening and spa treatment per se. Along with that, Cody sent me this knife. When I opened the box, it was in a nice bubble wrap USPS envelope with some clear packing tape on it. Before I read the card, I thought, oh, wow, Cody sent me a large paring knife. Wonder why he did that. Some of you looked at it in the introduction video from yesterday and thought the same thing. Some of you weighed in the comments and said, it looks like a kitchen knife, which quickly drew the ire of one Wranglerstar, because this is no kitchen knife. This is the legendary Gerber A400. Before I talk about the knife, let's go over a little brief history of the company who made it. Gerber Legendary Blades, founded by one Pete Gerber in the northwestern United States, I think in the mid-late 70s. A true innovator and marketer of very progressively designed blades. Pete aligned himself with some rather renowned designers, Paul Pullman, Blackie Collins, and one Al Marr, who designed this blade. The A400 was designed as a purpose-built, lightweight, fixed-blade hunting knife that would stand up to all weather conditions, be made with a very hard, great edge-holding, high-speed tool steel, clad in chrome plating. Nothing very innovative about the blade design, classic drop point hunter. But the combination of materials was rather innovative. And this is one of the most famous blades of those early years of Gerber. And before we get into the specifics about the knife, I want to finish talking about the company just a little. Gerber sailed on through most of the 80s doing what it did, and then for some reason, and it's kind of a mystery as to why, in 1987 Pete Gerber sold his company to Fiskars, a European maker of scissors and saws, and a rather large company who diversified soon after that, started buying up smaller cutting implement companies and producing tools, knives, overseas. And by overseas I mean in China. They became not an old respected maker of cutlery, but a purveyor of, shall we say, substandard cheap Chinese junk. witness the Bear Grylls line of Gerber not so legendary blades. You can find them in bubble packs at your local Walmart. This is not the same Gerber, guys. This is the original Gerber. And this is one of Gerber's most legendary blades. Specifically about this knife, what do we have? We have a blade about 100 thousandths thick, maybe 90, 3 3/4 inches long, a handle of cast aluminum, innovatively cast around the notched tang of the knife. The tang of the blade was placed in the mold, and the molten aluminum was cast around the tang of the blade. How's that for strength? Handle itself 4 5/8 inches long, which gives you an overall length of the knife of 8 3/8 inches. And the weight, how about the weight? A near 4-inch hunting knife, 8 3/8 inch total length, 3.8 ounces. Amazing. What a great lightweight blade. Can you see Almar's signature in this handle? I can. Now on the aluminum handle, because aluminum, even bead blasted aluminum, doesn't provide a lot of grip, Gerber clad this in a material they called armor hide, which is a thermosetting plastic. It provides great texture, and after about 30 years of use or so, most of it still there and still grippy on this knife. A little wear on the corners, as you'd expect. Now, Cody did supply me with a little bit of background on this particular Gerber A400. He saved for this knife when he was a young guy, about 12 years old, saved for months, and purchased this with his own money. And they retailed back in those days for, I think, $30 to $40 by my research. Can't buy them for that today. Sorry guys, going to do a little blade wipe off camera. In fact, the research I did find some that have sold recently on eBay and some other online forums and such. They sell today for about $250 if you can find one. So for about 30 years, Cody has owned this knife. For the last 10 of those years, and he was kind of embarrassed to tell me this, the knife was lost to him, and very recently he found it in pretty sad shape in an old tackle box at his dad's house. He found it, he was overjoyed, and decided, since he was sending me his 940, since this blade was in pretty rough shape, he would send it along and see if I could bring it back to life. Just in case you hadn't noticed, I would say we've brought it back to life. What would you guys say? Now, I didn't take any footage of the actual sharpening of this knife, but I did take some before and after. So let's take a look at that now, and then we'll come back and talk about this knife a little more. And here is from where we start with the old Gerber A400. Interesting, I hope my camera picks this up. This is a high-speed tool steel knife blade that is chrome plated. So even as old as this knife is, and we're talking 30 years or so, the majority of the blade has no rust on it, even though the high-speed steel is not rust resistant because of the chrome plating. Now if we can come into just the cutting edge, see if you can pick this up, you'll notice some staining, some corrosion. on the cutting edge itself. And I don't know if the chips are going to show up on the video camera, but I will roll in a couple of stills. This knife is fairly chipped up in a small way, but consistently throughout the length of the knife. I expect this steel to be extremely hard, probably in the 60 to 62 range on the Rockwell C scale. Could be interesting. It's not a very thick blade, probably less than 10 thousandths behind the cutting edge. Pretty close to a zero grind for a production blade. But because of the chips, we're going to have to remove some material. I'm just glad it's not thick. I expect this to react a lot like the CPM M4 and the Spyderco Gale Bradley, which means I'm going to be here for a while. We'll see when it's done. Oh, let's see if it'll cut. First we'll try the copy paper. Anything can cut copy paper, even a butter knife. Well, probably not. Let's see what we get. Well, Cody said he found this in a tackle box at his dad's house in severe disrepair. And guys, that's how it cuts. This is starting to feel like a pretty heavy gauntlet that Cody has thrown down. Pray for me, gang. We'll see you when it's done. Okay guys, you saw what I was dealing with. And it wasn't pretty. So when Cody threw the gauntlet down in this challenge to see if I could put his old knife back in, quote, fighting trim, it wasn't an easy task. Let's look now at what we ended up with and how it performed. Okay guys, fast forward a couple of hours and the old Gerber A400 is done. Let's get some focus and take a look at that edge. There is no chipping, there is no staining. There's nothing but polished goodness there, boys. Oh yeah. Well, shall we see if it cuts? Oh, back to the copy paper. Oh, I hope it worked. Let's see. Might be a little better. Now let's go to the phone book paper. Let's see if it'll slice it. Oh! And let's see if it'll push cut. I think the gauntlet has been picked up. Ooh, wow. That's a sharp knife, guys. She's a pretty one. Fairly impressive, don't you think? I must admit, It was very hard for me to touch stone to steel in this challenge because this knife is irreplaceable. You could make the case that it's priceless. It has history and provenance that are unmatched and pretty special. I didn't want to screw it up. What I did when I finally started digging into it is I thought, as thinly as this blade is ground, and it's probably less than 10 thousandths behind the cutting edge, I thought it really called for a single edge bevel, not the compound bevel of secondary and micro that I usually apply. And I thought it wanted 18 degrees. As I got into it, I found that the corrosion and the chips in the blade were going to cause me to have to remove way too much knife to go 18 degrees all the way to a chip-free straight edge. Right here in the base area of the blade, I had some chips that just weren't going to come out without removing way too much material. So I stopped before it got too scary, and I put an extremely small 20 degree micro bevel on this knife. It really looks and behaves like a single edge bevel knife, but in order to get those chips out without getting way too deep into the blade steel, I did apply that slightly more steep 20 degree micro bevel, which actually will help Cody as he maintains the knife with a Spyderco Sharp Maker or something like that that's set at a 20 degree angle with its ceramic hones. He'll follow that micro bevel I put on and be able to maintain this very hard high-speed steel for years. The mirror polish on the edge I think matches very well the mirror polish on the body of the blade. It's impossible now to tell where the chrome plating stops and the tool steel starts. And because of that mirror polish on the cutting edge, the corrosion that we saw in the before pictures from a pretty jagged edge grind shouldn't really be a problem again. The polish should give it enough corrosion resistance that with very minimal care we shouldn't see that rust again ever in the life of this blade. Pretty happy with the way it turned out, and what a wonderful little knife. What a great little hunting blade. By Cody's own account, it has processed mule deer, bear, and other game, and will continue to do so, I hope, in the hands of Jack, because this is definitely an heirloom quality knife. Cody, I hope you're happy with it when you get it back. It's been a pleasure, and phase 1 of Wranglerstar Gauntlet Challenge complete. Later tonight, we move on to the 940. Grace to you and peace, guys, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Wranglerstar's A400 are sharp.